inside, our hearts open wide, and we'll never tire. We do not comply. We do not comply.
How do you feel?
Great.
Son of a bitch.
Welcome back, Sam Faddis.
You seem like, are you a little,
What? I only been up since 4:30. You know?
Well, you're a farmer, right?
Farmer, yeah. Businessman.
How did we meet?
This is going swimmingly.
I believe it was my campaign manager that set us up when I ran.
Yeah, you were running for state rep, right?
I was, yeah.
What made you do that? Why would you say, "Oh, I'm going to run for state rep"?
The real reason was because we were getting fleeced on every bill, every law, regulation, you name it, from the farming business to the transportation business to just regular business in general. Fleeced.
Now, when you say fleece, what does that mean?
Constant bombardment, attacks under more
Like
and
regulation,
more
taxes.
regulation, taxes. And Mark, if you remember when I ran, to me, a regulation is a tax.
Yeah.
And people don't realize how much small business pays in it. I'm going to say I'm around 65% my sales.
Like your revenue,
My
65%
revenue,
of it goes to taxes?
Yeah, with the regulations, absolutely. It's ridiculous.
So you've been up in North Pocono most of your life, right?
All my life.
So did you notice all this happening over time? Because your family they had a farm, right?
Farm. The buses were, well, next year will be 90 years in business.
So that's North Pocono Transportation, right?
Pocono.
Pocono Transportation.
Yeah. So, yeah, you see it gradually increasing. You know, the township up there is talking about a mercantile tax. It's like constant.
How does that how did you see like from your family growing up where it was like easier, or did it do you know what I mean? Like with less of the regulations and less of the taxes and less of everybody getting involved, it seems like you were a happier person.
You're a happier person. I can't say it was easier because I'm sure some of the stresses were real, just like they are now. But I don't believe you had the nonsense and the regulations you have now. I mean, you're worried about, right now we worry about if people are actually going to show up. I don't think back in the, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you had to worry about that. You took people at their word. They commit to come to work. They commit. Now it's a commit, but you have to do it on their terms.
Like just to be an employer.
Yeah, it's just not, it's not what it was 10 years ago. You could see the decline.
And that frustrated you heavily?
Very heavily. It still frustrates me.
What was it about? Yeah, but why take that leap into like running for state rep? Like, what was the moment where you're like, I think that every candidate has that moment where you're like, here's where I made the decision, and like where you were and what you were doing and who you were with.
I was in church, St. Catherine's, my son, worrying about how I'm going to cover 5 runs Monday morning. Enough's enough. How's my kid? How am I going to hand this down to my kid if I can't even do it?
And you're a single dad, right?
I was at the time, yeah.
Yeah. That's something like a lot of people don't talk about is like there's dads in this state who are single dads. And men still have to play the men role.
Yeah. Despite what society thinks.
If Aaron wasn't a single dad, I bet you'd be a great swimmer in women's swimming.
I think I would too. I think there's no doubt with my blonde hair, blue eyes, I'd win a beauty contest.
You were like the bigger mermaid.
Yeah.
Instead of the little mermaid.
I have concerns now that, my pecs are pretty sizable.
Dude, I always tell you, if you punch me in my head, it would just be dust. Like that's all it would be. It would look like Bruce Lee kicking like a watermelon. So your son,
are you saying that I wouldn't be a very pretty woman?
I think you're a pretty man. So I don't know where we're going.
Okay.
I think you'd be a pretty woman. I don't know about Julia Roberts pretty, but you'd be pretty. Like you do have beautiful eyes and hair. I could say that with like as a straight man.
Keep going. I like this one.
And I guess
Can we turn the lights down? Open up the. Don't we have like an oil burner thing here?
I'd play some Sade right now if we wouldn't get marked.
I would
on
love
it.
Sade.
Do you remember like Fran Pantuso and the or are you too young for that?
Was she on?
Wait, was it?
Oh no,
didn't
she was on
work-
Magic 93, wasn't she?
Was that?
the romantic hour or whatever?
Yeah, with Delilah was also
Delilah,
on.
yeah.
Well, Fran Pantuso was like they did 70s at 7.
Yep.
Love Notes.
Love
Or was
Notes.
that no? Was
It-
Delilah?
I think it was Love Notes because I can remember back in the day.
Yeah, she was Love Notes, and then Delilah would come on afterwards.
I was just telling my wife a story about Fran Pantuso, and I don't know why it clicks in. But back in high school, to be romantic, you got your cassette tape and your jukebox and press record and made your own mixtape.
Yeah, you had to wait for the song on the radio to come on. Yeah,
And you'd always miss the intro. Because Jumpin' Jeff was always talking, or somebody was always like, wait, you were making mixtapes to Fran Pantuso?
Well, not to Fran Pantuso.
No, you know what I mean? It's like her.
Yeah, she was like
her slot.
my avenue.
Well, oh my God, what's your slow jam? Like Country Boy is like slow jamming it to.
Well, I don't think we really had a genre except whatever could get you a date for that Friday night.
Lionel Richie would be like on her show.
Yeah, it wasn't country.
What would you listen? Wait, you're like this big romantic. A little bit.
No, whatever worked. That's what worked at the time.
So you looked at it as you were throwing like dynamite in the river to catch some fish, or is
No, you just got to be prepared for the occasion. So it's like when you make a mixtape and you have to have like the right flow to it.
I
and
never
everything.
did this.
Oh,
What are
see,
you gonna have Hank Williams and try to ask a girl out on a date?
I don't know. What were you doing? Did you have like a favorite mixtape? Was there one that worked more often, or was it like every girl got her own mixtape?
Because I was so romantic, Mark. And I'm sure your listeners would agree. Since I was so romantic, it was really customizable for the girl I wanted to court that day.
So what was most of the like? What would it fall? Like what were the go tos like that would work that seemed like universal amongst dates?
I like Whitesnake, stuff like that.
Like Here I Go Again, or
Yeah.
Oh my God. Was there Trans Ams a lot in the Poconos?
Oh,
IROX.
IROX.
Is that what it was? You guys were IROX?
Yep, IROX, yeah. IROX and pickup trucks.
Oh my God. And everyone's just driving down the street, just here I go again, just blasting.
That's it.
With chicks and-
tops down or the pickup truck,
A lot of hairspray for the ladies.
for the ladies. I wouldn't say they had bangs back then.
The Foreigner, probably.
Yeah, Foreigner was in their Journey.
Who's a couple other good ones?
Brian Adams.
Well, Brian Adams.
Yeah.
The Canadian government has apologized on many occasions for Brian Adams, but I still love him.
But hey, it's
Heaven. Do you ever hear his acoustic version of Heaven from
I have.
It's one of the best.
It is
It's amazing.
one of my favorite songs.
Heaven is? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to know what mine is?
Go on.
Drive by the Cars.
Drive is great.
Yeah, and now I'm really into Van Morrison's Into the Mystic.
Yeah.
Again.
I always, you know
I
who
love
I
it.
always
Every
like?
time it comes on, it's amazing.
REM.
No, they're good.
I think they're more than good.
Losing My Religion is probably one of those top 10 songs where it's
Orange
like,
Crush. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great song.
is that Follow Me? Don't, I got my time, I got my Orange Crush.
Yes.
I never really what were they, Atlanta?
I have no clue. I just they were whatever I wanted to
Well,
be.
Jesus Christ, at least I know Led Zeppelin comes from England.
And that's the time of the radios. Like you didn't, if you had money, you could upgrade and they could have like the Dolphins and stuff on it.
Oh yeah, on the Pioneer.
On the Pioneer, yeah.
what?
Or
The Pioneer, like on the headset for like the CD player for the removable face.
Oh
You
my
could get,
God,
like,
that's
you could get
right.
A wave, or you could get like a dolphin on there
Yeah.
swimming. Yeah.
Did that help with girls?
You thought so.
Come on, look, I got dot matrix dolphins
You thought so. I
on my
don't
new
know if it
Kenwood.
did. I'm
Me
sure.
and Aaron definitely would have been hanging out back in the day.
I'm sure it was sexier than trying to tune by hand.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Hold my hand, stick your leg out the window. I want to listen to Fran Pantuso.
You jack the brakes so you don't lose the station. Her teeth goes into the dash. Real romantic.
You told me once. I've always wanted to tell. Like I tried telling Dan one night. You told me once about fuel efficiency. You were talking one night about like how much fuel we should really be getting, and that for some reason you guys talking about IROCs. Maybe was it IROCs?
Well, I'm going to say they probably weren't the most fuel efficient, but
no.
What I was referring to back in the 50s. And
did you ever hear about this?
I think so. Yeah.
Because I think I tried telling you one night, and I'm like, "Yo, Aaron just told me about like fuel, and I don't know, I don't know how to convey what he said."
Oh wait.
Yeah. Well, back in the 50s, now motors. I don't know how many motorheads listen.
My dad would love this,
but and your dad would probably know, and I might be saying it wrong, but it was a Stryber carburetor on a Chevy big block motor, like a 350, and it was rated. The carburetor made this engine generate 52 miles per gallon
in the 50s.
In the 50s.
You're weird. Did you find it?
No.
Oh,
Carnival.
Oh, all right. Keep going.
So the technology exists.
Well, you and I had this conversation because I think at the time we were talking about like gas prices or something. I think that's what we talked about. And you were like, they do have this carburetor.
Yeah, it was a carbureted engine. I mean, now we have computers. There's no reason why we can't be tuned where we get that fuel mileage.
So if the carburetor can do it, which is a pretty mechanical...
It's a
totally mechanical process.
Yep.
Why can't they do that with the computers?
I have no clue.
Doesn't that drive you nuts?
But that's why I wanted to run to find out. It's what did George Carlin say? It's a private club and you're not invited.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I wanted to invite myself in. I wanted to see so I could, invite everybody else in.
But you know a lot from like the side like people don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like nobody really thinks about like... It seems like, so if you watch like the media, right? If you watch like CNN, MSNBC, Fox, local, stuff like that, like there's not a lot of stories about like ruraler America. It's always like city. And it's just like,
that's because that's where all the troublemakers live.
Well, you're not wrong.
We don't allow them in that country.
You're not wrong. So,
I mean, look at this one song. Don't try that in a small town. They wanted to crucify him.
Isn't that crazy? Just to be like, hey, stop. We don't like crime.
Yeah, we don't want you beating up our grandparents. I mean, I don't know. And then the same year, I think Wet Ass Pussy came out.
WAP? Yeah, it was a hit.
It was. Yeah.
They wanted to crucify the guy protecting the grandmother, but geez, that was okay.
Was it always like that? Does it seem like it got weird?
I don't think it was always like that. No.
Like Great Balls of Fire at the time was WAP? Like, do you think
that's what I'm just thinking though? Like, if this is our perspective on it because we've all grown up through the time now. Now we're hearing the stuff that's differently. Whereas, like, my grandparents probably would have, like you said, heard like Great Balls of Fire. Probably went through the roof. Like, what the fuck? This isn't Lawrence Welk.
Yeah.
Well,
he married his underage cousin.
I'm sure it happened because you had the Doors that when they went on TV they had to change a lyric.
He was exposing himself and will get arrested like at concerts and stuff for like lurid acts.
Yeah,
and now it's just accepted.
Yeah,
the Beatles couldn't shake their hips, or Elvis couldn't shake his hips. I don't know.
Yeah, but no other time before this, like before that. So if you think of like, okay, there really wasn't TV. So I always like wonder, it's like what was like, so if we can, if the three of us are here talking and we can look at generationally, like maybe WAP was like to Elvis, what Elvis was to like Great Balls of Fire. But then where do you go backwards?
Like the Flappers and like the dancing, like the Charleston.
Yeah, would that be considered? Because I think every generation, it seems like, has its own
I'm
thing.
sure it has the same tone, but I'm not even convinced that there wasn't curses and stuff like.
Nobody said fuck until 1912.
Yeah, I mean,
or 1913 when they introduced the income tax.
Right. So
you're not going to get taxed on your income. Fuck.
Yeah. So
I like that. Write that down.
I'm sure it existed, but I think people were more considerate about others. I don't think they jam it down your throat like we do today.
Do you think from the prevalence of like, it's so as far as we know, it's the most communicable time in history. Like where like I can literally talk to somebody in Australia with no delay. Like I can literally upload a photo and people in Australia will immediately see it.
That goes without saying. I mean, as soon as something happens, it's popping up all over social media. Is that good? I guess we'd say it's good, but man, it don't have a time to pollinate. It doesn't have, people get their information from a 30-second TikTok clip. They don't research it anymore. Back then, you had a full article, you read it, you had bipartisan theory on it, and you made your own conclusion. Now it's whoever's popular, whoever gets it out first, and whatever's in that 30-second clip, off it goes.
And that's the truth for most people.
For most people, it's the gospel.
I'm now did I tell you I'm now empathizing with Bond villains?
Bond villains.
Yeah, where it's like, we will drop the EMP and turn off all the technology. And I'm like, man, that might be an okay thing. It'll be a tough 2 weeks, but then everyone will acclimate.
Well, I think everybody, computers and stuff are supposed to make life easier. I think they made it harder, to be honest with you, in certain aspects.
Sure feels like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I think we grew up thinking technology's a cell phone that makes calls, a calculator, but I mean, it's so much more than that now, and it's just, look at AI.
How about that?
I mean, I don't even think I don't think you'd even have to go to 8th grade English class anymore. You have ChatGPT.
Or like Elon's Grok thing or whatever. Did you see that one?
I mean, I could sound like a genius on AI.
Do you think it takes away any ability? Oh my God! Just really think about it. It's the AI's already passed the bar exam,
Yes.
which I'm all for getting rid of most lawyers. I'm all right with that. If a citizen's write me this brief on this thing, and then you're done.
I think it helps if you could keep it as an assistant, check your spelling, that type of stuff. But we take it way beyond that. Like you said, it's your lawyer now. It's how you get your information. What scares me is it's only as smart as what someone puts into it,
Sure.
or what it sees or scans on the web. It doesn't give you the actual text. If you ask it to interpret or read the Constitution, it's going to give you its interpretation of it. People then take it for granted that that's true. Well, how about this? How about you teach the kids cursive so they can read the Constitution for themselves? That's all I'm saying. I think we're technology is making it way too easy to be manipulated
And to be dumb.
Yeah, same thing. Manipulation is stupidity, in my opinion.
Do you think? So I was terrified of AI, and I still am because I watched Terminator when I was a kid. We never saw it coming. I'm like, James Cameron told you 30 fucking years ago. But I think, and I listened to a lot of people talk about this because I was curious on what would this mean? Like the idea, the way the internet changed how we all behaved with each other, and even just the idea of a cell phone, like the old Nokias, just the idea of that where I can walk around and make a phone call. Forget about Facebook and all that shit. Just that, that was a revolution. But so I'm trying to understand this, and I'm not a father, you're a father. Where it's almost it's like a hammer. You can teach, let's say there's no technology. You could sit with your son and with a hammer, teach him how to build a barn. You could also teach him how to kill a goat with the same hammer. Do you see what I'm saying? Where it's do you think that as a parent maybe, and like I said, I have no kids, you know that. Where does, I think parents have a huge responsibility to tell you how to use the hammer. And if you're not using the hammer right, they should stop that. And society should too. When I was growing up, my mother told all the neighbors, if you want to hit him, go for it. Not as we should all abuse the neighborhood kids, but if I was ever smart.
Well, I think there was an expectation, again, back then or in certain communities now, that you are a community. How you represent your community represents everybody. Your parents, your grandparents, your neighbor. I mean, when I was young, growing up in the 80s and 90s, like you walked to your neighbor's house, they taught you things. My neighbor Butch, he taught me how to weld. My neighbor Ducky taught me how to work on lawnmowers and stuff. And through that teaching, it taught you to respect others. It taught you to respect the equipment. Taught you to respect life and people's opinions. So, I don't want to get into the taboo stuff, but like
let's
taboo.
We never.
What's that right at Dorney? Taboo.
We never cared if you're gay or lesbian. We didn't care as long as you didn't infringe.
They're not new? Did they exist back then?
As long as you didn't infringe on our rights to be who we are.
Yeah, my grandparents were like that. My parents were like that.
Right. We didn't care. And the other thing I would know, like my grandparents who, grew up in the 20s, 30s, 40s, a lot of times they just did things, said stuff out of ignorance. I mean, they weren't harmful people.
Ignorant doesn't mean dumb. It doesn't mean that you're a piece of shit. It just means you didn't know.
No.
That's all it means.
Yeah. and I'll tell you, I married a Brazilian woman and
score.
And last week
you're punching above your weight, bro. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh yeah. I just want. Yeah, she's.
I don't.
She's a good-looking, good woman.
Well,
yeah.
I'm
settle down. That's the last of the
happy.
Compliments I'm going to give you before you start getting an ego about it.
But we had the opportunity to go to Washington, and we should talk about that because that was an experience.
Let's.
But on the way back up, we stopped at Gettysburg.
Oh,
showed where like some people we know and the ancestries fought at the Battle of Gettysburg and the lineage and stuff. And she said the Americans are very patriotic people, more so than anywhere else in the world. And I believe that. 2 weeks before, we had a conversation because we're very open with each other. And I says, what does the rest of the world, Brazil, think about Americans when it comes to slavery and our treatment of African Americans? She says, hate. I said, what do you mean? The appearance of the Americans, they absolutely hate black people. All Americans? Well, in the world's eyes, yes. So I held on to that until we got to Gettysburg. And I said to her, I said, hey, Giovanni, you realize what this war was in part fought for. And she don't know. She's not American yet. And
by injection. Thanks for cutting to me on that.
Yeah.
Upwards of 700,000 Americans died in this. And I said, I pointed out 4 of my friends' kin fought with the different units. I pointed them out. And she says, I said, now going back to your comment, do you think we all hate African Americans? And she shakes her head, no. I said, well, what made you change that now? Because you showed me the history. Well, that's interesting because our kids don't even want to know our history. So when people start bringing up the racism, I'm not saying that it doesn't still exist, but it does not exist as it did in the 1860s, or for that matter, the 1960s. I truly believe it's better now, and I'm telling you, I'll get crucified because I'm just a oversized white person.
I'll take the white person, oversized, please.
But in reality, our ancestries, the bulk of us, especially up here, fought for that right to be free.
Sure.
And that's not getting translated properly to the younger generation. And you have this resurgency of people thinking we hate still. And, you know, some of these activists, AOC, they always seem to try to nip at that. Now you have like Candace Owens that notices it for what it is. But I think it's our duty as parents to share that lineage and to share the wrongs that we did. It's not all peaches and cream.
Yeah.
But let's get down to the nitty gritty and actually teach these people something. Teach our kids so they don't have to live in this constant fear of hate or feeling guilty that they did something wrong when, in fact, it's the opposite. They should be proud of what we did to stand up for the rights.
I had one of the most, remember Mr. Cook?
Yeah, he had a stroke my year.
Yeah, but my year, he didn't. He was one of the most influential teachers I ever had. He taught a global studies program. And our job that semester, that whole year, was to get basically a pen pal in a different country and then write reports on like other countries. He'd encourage us to go to the library and look up, you know, remember the books like A Day in the Life of China or The Day in the Life of Spain or The Day in the Life of Brazil. They had all those. I don't know if you remember. Maybe your whole education system was terrible. I don't know. I wasn't there. We had them because we were rich. Dan knows. But it really, he said to me, he goes, history is so that we can learn from our mistakes. And that always like stuck with me. And he always taught us to see from like a different point of view. But it was always one of those things where it's like, you get an education and be grateful about like where you were and the time you were born and the people who came before you and how it is in other countries. Like he taught us about communism. He taught us about fascism. He taught us like literally like one of the most profound teachers I've ever had was Dick Cook, Abington Heights. After he had his stroke and he couldn't teach anymore, like that quality of teacher was no longer at Abington Heights. It seemed like they never were interested in like you getting another, like you said to Edgevania about like which is crazy that all the Brazilians think that we all hate each other.
Well, not hate each other, hate African Americans.
Oh, we just hate black. That's all we hate is
black people.
Well, there was a slew of teachers though at that point. I think maybe that's probably like he was on the younger side of them, but we had like older teachers. I remember in like the global studies and everything like that, and in science and math and like. But I think that they've kind of started to fade out, like that generation that came through the education system.
Yeah, but isn't that like a bad? That's what I'm talking about. It's like if like we're supposed to be like this culture or this country that is like we're bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, and at least that's what I thought when I was growing up. And then if we compare yesterday to today, it seems like none of those metrics
match up.
No,
they don't.
Did that make sense, or did I sound like a crazy
person? You made sense in the grand scheme of things. I'll go one step further. Edgevania's having a hard time because she's a woman.
It's that parallel parking.
She's actually concerned about her parents, and she hasn't been able to go back because she's in that green card holding stage. What she's concerned about in Brazil.
Oh, because they're in Brazil, because Brazil's kind of crazy right now.
Brazil's real crazy now.
Yeah.
So right now the government is really leaning more and more and more towards socialism.
Yeah. They have that one judge that looks like I don't want to get I don't want to get her in trouble, but they have that one judge that looks like he's a villain out of a Harry Potter movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I forget his name, but he's a bad dude.
They're all ministries of something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bananas. I don't think. But in reality,
boas.
The Ministry of Feather Boas.
Why not? You know,
they have Carnival.
And I'm telling you, that is a blast.
I would love to go to that. It looks amazing.
It is. I don't think they call us gringos.
I could deal with that.
I don't think we could. We could definitely not party like them.
I'll give it a shot. They have that marching powder here that helps.
Yeah.
The Ministry of Feather Boas. Could we please make that a T-shirt or something? Holy Christ! Okay, keep going.
Sorry. Get it out of your system. Mark.
I know you. This this is probably the first time in a long time. Ministry of Feather Boas.
I'm coining it. Okay.
The problem is you're imagining the guy like
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it. I'm imagining the evil Harry Potter villain
With a feather.
yeah,
boa.
with the feather boa.
High heels or not?
No, boots.
Boots.
Like the boots that like
The
Thomas
towel,
Jefferson wore that for some reason aren't gay anymore. Okay, keep going. Ministry of Feather Boas. Christ almighty.
Well, there's this lean towards socialism now. And
It's all in the Western world.
I know, but it's really bad down there, and it really affects people when it's actually on your doorstep. And I'm not saying it can't happen here.
It can. It can very easily happen here.
Absolutely. But we still have some people who fight back. Going back to your question, why did I run? Well, I'm not saying I ran to stop socialism, but there's people with that mindset that says, hey, I could still do something. It's America. But down there, it's getting so bad, they can't even afford regular food items. So what they have is sort of like a Social Security system set up for when you retire. But right now, they're allowing people to take a loan against that Social Security, no matter what age, and the interest goes back into the country, to the government.
How can you pay interest on money you don't have?
That's what I'm saying. It's going to fail. It's really going to fail. But these people, okay, I need it because I need to eat, But the point I'm trying to make, and I guess I went way
Socialism.
off with the feather boa guy with
The Ministry of Feather Boas.
is, people aren't, them schools aren't educating the students and the public on the past, socialism, communism, the real difference, the real productivity of capitalism, democracy versus republic. No one's teaching that anymore, not only here in America, but down there. So what happens? People start getting an idea. They think it's a new idea. And it's still the same old idea. And it's crippling these nations.
I think I think socialism existed before Marx and all that. It was just a different name.
Well, the thought of it no doubtly did. Why wouldn't you want everything?
Yeah, collective so I think people get mired down in the ideas of socialism, fascism, communism. It's either authoritarian or freedom. Like that's it.
Right.
I don't think like all the other names don't matter to me because it all leads to the same place.
Go back to the Bible. Thou shalt not covet. You could add on the wife or the neighbor's wife. Don't covet. I shouldn't be jealous for what you have. You shouldn't be jealous for what I have. You want more than I do? It's simple. Go out and work for it. Go out and develop something I haven't. Come up with a business plan that outdoes my business plan.
Yeah.
Be better at school buses. Be better at towing.
Yeah, and be a good person. And maybe we'll work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't covet. Don't covet ideas. It's that simple. But we
well, if they knew that all the way back then, and we know that now, it seems like a pervasive idea that seems to work. Like
that's what we were founded on.
The United States.
Yes, biblical teachings.
Well, they'll tell you that's not right. It was,
huh?
They'll say that that's not why, but
they'll say it, but it is true.
Yeah, what was it like? 11 of the 13 colonies in their state constitutions, you had to swear allegiance to God.
Well, yeah, the government provided Bibles. I mean, come on, they don't provide anything but headache. But they provided Bibles. Either one.
All right, why'd you go to DC?
School Bus Association.
What was that? Why'd you go down there for that?
Well, because it was advocacy day for safety and safety in and around school buses.
Are they still doing these electric school buses?
Well, they are, but Trump kind of put a stop to that. So there's no more grants being issued, but there's quite a few out there.
Tell me why electric's bad.
Because it don't work. It doesn't work. Everybody thinks of electric, like an electric school bus being like a Tesla, even though they hate the guy now. But
Ford.
isn't that amazing?
Bolt.
Isn't that amazing? That was their hero. He goes to work for Trump. Man, they can't stand him. He's a Nazi. He's everything else. You imagine being like
They're shooting up his fucking dealerships.
You imagine being married to one of them people? Like, I don't like this. I'm going to kill you. You're a Nazi. Like, how quick they turn.
What do you? There's a lot of topics to cover, but what do you think's making that happen?
I think it's a sickness in their mind.
Like, there's no illusion.
Media, to be honest with you,
and like fear.
Well, yeah.
Well, they make them afraid. Well, they're going to cut Medicare. It's going to be dystopia.
It's the media wholeheartedly about the fear, about everything. You turn on ABC News and then you go turn on Fox. You think you're on two different worlds. You don't know who to believe, but it's all fear driven. I don't care what side you're on. It's all fear driven. The guy's doing great things. People might not like how he's doing it, but he's uncovering stuff. So then all of a sudden you see, it's all fake. It's all fake news now. They're using our narratives.
Are they really?
Yeah, it's all fake. If it was real, someone would be in jail.
I don't watch it. Like, I don't watch it anymore.
Yeah, well.
Do you still watch it?
Well, I do because it's like a habit.
It's like watching Ricky Lake. You got that joke,
I
right?
did, yeah.
Yeah.
Richard Bay.
I didn't get it.
Like, you watch it because you hate it.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know, it's like why you watch Maury Povich or
Jerry Springer
or Howard Stern back in the day. What was it? Howard Stern had more listeners.
You remember Richard Bay?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Who's Richard Bay?
You said Kelly Lake.
No, he said Ricky Lake. I said Richard Bay.
Oh, Richard Bay. Yeah, that was a weird one.
He was on like UPN, but he was like a little bit more aggressive and crazier people.
I missed all these people growing up because I was a liberal. I never watched any of these people. I don't even remember
It's
any
like
of these people.
watching NASCAR. You only watch it for the wrecks. So
Yes, that's Ricky Lake.
That's Ricky.
Maury
that's-
Povich.
Yeah.
Jenny Jones.
Yeah, all of them.
She had a poor ending of her show.
The gay murder.
Yeah.
Did you watch that documentary?
No.
It's crazy. All right, go back to Washington.
Okay.
Did you feel evil down there? Did you feel like is there an energy? Because it feels like there's an energy there that's not good.
Well, I'll tell you, you feel fake. Everything's like the wannabes, fancy restaurants. The 19 or 20-year-old staffers running around, with the slick back hair. It's like, I really didn't feel comfortable. And I thought, this is a pretty historic city. I'd really enjoy it. But I'll tell you, I didn't, other than being 350 pounds walking 5 miles, I didn't feel comfortable.
What month were you down there?
I was just 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
a week
okay.
ago.
Oh, see, if you go down like May, when it turns into like swamp season, or when like the cherry blossoms start to come and bloom, if you have like allergies, it's like a prison. It's the worst place in the world.
Yeah, we don't worry about allergies. We partake in natural resources, raw milk, raw honey. We don't get allergies.
Is that true?
It is for me. I don't have a degree, so I can't say it for I'm telling you what works. I don't know.
All right, I'm
But
jumping.
let's go back to Washington.
Yeah.
I'll keep you on track, even though you're supposed to keep me on track.
Yeah, it's not my. It's yeah. Today's been a fucking day. Sorry, man. So DC.
So DC, down there for the school bus safety, it's pretty straightforward. Everybody could get around. It's like holding puppies. Everybody could get around safety, security, in and around the school bus.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. So we were down there really advocating for two major things. One was for the FMCSA, the federal motor carriers, received funds from the federal government to put out like a click it or ticket campaign, but for break for buses for
bus drivers,
for motorists, so they don't pass a school bus.
Oh, okay.
With the red lights on.
I thought that was already a fine. I thought that was already something you can't do.
It is, but if you see some of the statistics, there's like 30% of the people who got caught didn't care. Another 30% didn't know that it was a law. 12% were distracted, and it goes on and on. And there was 45 million violations in 2023.
What?
Yeah, people passing a school bus. I have them. Every day I get 3 or 4 reports just in North Pocono. So that's up nearly 2 million from the previous year. So let's get out. Let's get some advertising out there nationwide to say, hey, break for these school buses. Money was already established, so it didn't cost you anything. It's just in the previous years, they kind of like squandered it. They did the minimum.
No.
Yeah. They put it on the FMCSA website. Is that anything that you ever went to?
I didn't even know that existed
I
until
own
you said it about a
buses.
minute ago.
I rarely ever go on that. So they put a warning out there, and that was like the 50 million or whatever they did.
It's like a tweet with 4 followers.
Yeah, that's what it was. So we asked them to actually have something comprehensive, put it out. I don't care. Super Bowl had something, just get people aware. That was one. Everybody should be able to get around that. I'm sorry. So we visited Hawaii's representative. and I digress, but
Wasn't Tulsi.
we visited Hawaii's representative, and a lawyer for the PSBA. He's counsel. He's not really the lawyer, but he helps us out with fact finding stuff. So he goes in there and pitches that, and along with something called the under the hood waiver, which I'll get into. The guy turns around and says, "Get out. I don't want to hear it."
The Hawaii guy.
The Hawaii guy. Well, everybody, the lawyer's saying everybody could get around school bus safety. I mean, you guys are trying to pitch this to spend more money on something that Hawaii's not even represented at. There's no school buses in Hawaii. I'm pretty sure there are. They're represented in the National Association. But I just thought that was like really rude of the guy. And out of everyone we met with, that was probably the only member of Congress that met with us. And he was very rude to us.
He was the only one that met with you? One of the only ones?
Yes, we met. I'll go on with the story.
Okay, sorry.
So we were also down there trying to advocate for, it's called the under the hood waiver. The federal government looks at school bus drivers the same way as they do tractor trailer drivers over the road, and so on and so forth. We're in a national shortage of school bus drivers for various reasons. This was a waiver that was extended 2 more times, exempting school bus drivers that stay within a jurisdictional boundary, i.e. PA or Maryland, wherever you go, to not have to do the mechanical part under the hood, i.e. knowing if the air compressor is chain driven or gear driven, if the, fluid checks are done properly and stuff. School buses are different than over the road truck drivers. I don't want my folks under there. They're pre-tripped every morning mechanically and everything else by not only the driver, but by the mechanic. If a bus breaks down, you're bringing out another bus. The driver's not allowed to leave the kids. So let's utilize that time to do student management. So there's no safety denigration in that. In the last 4 years, Pennsylvania adopted it, but every year the federal government has to give a waiver to keep it going. So we're asking, make it a permanent change so we could get more drivers behind the wheel. So again, didn't cost money, something that 13 states are already doing, gives us the opportunity to get more drivers. Most drivers will look at the mechanical part and say, you know what, I'm 60 years old. I could drive the vehicle. I could handle the kids. I don't want to become a mechanic to drive
60,
these
yeah.
things. So, they're pretty real simple asks. So we go down there. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm from this district. So, Bresnahan was on the list. Fetterman was on the list. A couple other, Perry was on the list. Joyce was on the list. There's quite a few. Not one of the members actually met with us. Not one. Now, I'm in very big support.
This is about children's safety.
Right. And, it's something that everybody can get along. People traveled from all over the country, whether, I came from Pennsylvania, there's people from Montana, California, wherever. Not one member met with us. They all had their staffers meet.
Did they know you were coming?
Yeah, you set up appointments.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah. I text one of them. I have too much respect for the guy I text, but he knew I was coming. I get there, their staffer comes out and says, "Oh, the guy's sick. He's on." I didn't tell him. I just texted the guy. I know he's not sick, but I guess that's what the town does, is bullshit. So you're trying to talk to these folks on safety issues that are really basic, but they're 20-year-old kids.
That you're talking to.
Yeah. Like, they're paid to make you feel like they care, but I don't know. I don't know if it even gets to the member. I'd like to think so. In some cases, we had to meet out in the hall. So think about these people who travel from Wisconsin, California and stuff, and their member didn't even have the decency to come by and even wave or sneeze.
The person
or
who
something.
represents them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I was a little disappointed that I didn't get to see my representatives. Fetterman, we set up a meeting to meet in his office building. It may or may not have been exactly with him. It said it was with him, but then it got changed to his staffer. And then as we were walking over, it got changed to Zoom. Did you ever try to Zoom in the middle of Washington, D.C. on a telephone?
And you're trying to tell them, here's what we're concerned about?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
While people on electric scooters are blowing by you?
Right. And the wind, it's just crazy. And what really got me is the staffer gets up and says, I'm not going to turn my camera on. So I don't even know if you're there or if you're in Braddock, PA. I don't know. I'm in Washington.
The staffer said, "I'm not turning on my camera."
Yeah, he's not turning on his camera, but we're on the middle of the street.
What the fuck?
They're at home. That's why.
Yeah. Well, he what was interesting? He made a little blurb about, the Republicans are making us work.
No, he didn't. Did he really?
Yeah. No shit. No shit. Really? But I like Fetterman. I don't know. I met him through a township PSATs thing. I get along with him. I don't know what's wrong with him now, but
nice joke, Aaron.
But
something happened a couple years ago.
Well,
I'm kidding.
I would appreciate to actually just see him, even if it was walking by.
Yeah.
I was in a meeting with two people from Bedford, Pennsylvania. So I believe that congressman was named Joyce. I know he walked in the hall, down the hall while we were waiting to get in to see him. And the two members said, "Hey, Dr. Joyce, how are you?" And she was all excited and stuff. She said, when I was younger, he was a physician of mine and stuff. I said, "Oh, great. We're going to actually meet him." We go in there, we meet with a staffer. Now, the staffer's good, but the guy's in there. Just come in and say hi. My point being is I think these politicians get ultra consumed in worldly stuff, which is important. But you can't forget your district either. You can't forget the people of your district, whether they voted for you or not. You can't forget them. And if they traveled that far, just say hi. Not even that, we want to talk to you. Just acknowledge that we were there in respect of your office.
My buddy was a chief of staff for a state rep, and he said that when you get to Harrisburg, within 2 weeks, everyone's corrupted because they get like the pin on their jacket, and then there's like you get free haircuts, free lunches, free dinners. Everyone's trying to be your friend, and he goes, once that starts happening to people who didn't expect that to happen, they start to change, and they get addicted to like free haircuts, free lunch.
Well, I don't think that neglects you to treat your people like shit.
I think that changes your whole persona.
It makes you feel more important than you are. I don't know. All I want to like shake these folks and say, look, remember your district first and foremost. That's why you're there.
Yeah.
And it seems like they get ultra consumed in other business, foreign affairs, intelligence committees and stuff. But in reality, you're there to represent district.
Yeah.
Your district folks come first. And these small issues in your mind are big issues for these people. Even if you don't agree with them, hear them. I just don't get it. And I'll tell you, I'll vote for my guys again. I have no ill will. I'm sure they're very, very busy. And maybe I'm just making an ass out of myself. But I just disagree with that. I think they should concentrate on the district more.
Where did it go wrong? Where do you think it would, like, do you think there's a period of time where it went wrong?
Well, I don't know.
Or was it always wrong?
History shows that, having a representative republic like we have is very, very, very hard. Franklin even said that, the old story about the woman saying, Mr. Franklin, what'd you make for us today? And he leaned over and he says, a republic, if you guys could hold on to it, because, it was very hard. It is very hard for that. You figure, George Washington's going through, he believed that there's no two-party system. There's only one
country,
common good. And that was short-lived. His vice president was throwing stones in the paper at him.
For Washington?
Yeah.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah. Adams was getting bailed by Jefferson. Jefferson actually was the one who started didn't start it, but probably exuberated that there's the clear divide on the two-party system.
Oh my God. So it's always been pretty screwed up.
It has been. They used Jefferson, I believe, hired, and I love you for the,
Jamie.
You look this up after I'm done talking to you. But Jefferson.
That's the most polite way anybody's ever asked me to do anything over here. I appreciate it.
Jefferson hired people to really show the shortfalls of the administration before him. That's why Adams and Jefferson, there's the long feud. That's what started it.
Really?
Yes.
So Washington, I didn't know any of this. Why don't they teach this? I mean, you teach about the French Revolution, but they don't teach about just in the first years.
Just first years, yeah.
This was going on.
Yeah. Washington was very, very distraught over it. Because he didn't know where it was coming from. He wouldn't expect it to come from someone like Jefferson. I'm sure he felt like shit.
Why don't people talk about, I think that's something that seems like a really cool story that could be taught in schools.
It is. I don't know why it isn't. We're worried about Genghis Khan and stuff.
Dan found an article. Washington versus Jefferson, the conflict that continues to trouble America. Conflict between George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Although numerous historians have explored Jefferson's differences with Alexander Hamilton, little has been written of, and thus few Americans know about, the fascinatingly complex and at times contentious relationship that developed between the two most famous founding fathers. Huh. What's it say? Differences in temperament, Jefferson's chief contribution to the... Keep going. In September 1785, James Madison began visiting Exeter at Mount Vernon to discuss the need for a more effective federal government. They agreed that the Articles of Confederation, the primitive charter Congress had created, was inadequate to the task of governing 13 contentious states. Absent from the conversations, which would have a large influence on the new Constitution, was their mutual friend Thomas Jefferson. Madison had persuaded him to accept Congress's appointment as ambassador to France. Go. The Constitution of Washington and Madison persuaded the delegates to create a new office, a president who could speak and act as a co-equal of Congress. No one signed the Constitution with more enthusiasm than General Washington. Jesus.
It's all there.
Jesus. This has always been going on.
Hmm?
This has always been going on.
See, people have selective history. They want to teach you just the highlights. This is the real history.
You can't watch anything with the clips of the show. You got to watch the whole episode. Scroll down a little bit more. Oh, the French dispute. They're fucking nuts. The French.
Yeah,
they
can't
just
speak
fucking.
to that.
They just imprisoned their lead, the political candidate. Was it yesterday?
Well, we tried to do the same thing. Come on.
It seems like the common thread amongst the Western world, my friend.
Yes, it is. But history is fascinating. Going back to the original questions, like you really need to teach your kids this. Hey, people need to be brought up on this.
Yeah, but why don't we why does it seem like something we shouldn't? Do they think it's religious? Like, do they think, like, I heard somebody say once that they got rid of civics in most schools because liberals were afraid their kids were going to turn out to be conservative, and conservatives were afraid their kids were going to turn out to be liberal.
I don't know that to be fact, but boy, I'll tell you, these folks, that was really a common thread back then.
Jefferson, almost everything President Jefferson said and did in the next 8 years was the opposite of what Washington's style and policies. Instead of addressing Congress each year, Jefferson sent a message that was read by a clerk. Instead of leading Congress with words and acts, he conferred with key congressmen at private dinners in his residence and persuaded them to vote for the policies he wanted. Thus, he diminished the importance of the presidency and created the illusion that Congress was running the country. What? I've never known this. At times, Jefferson's tilt towards Congress revealed his basic dislike of the Constitution. What the fuck?
Just so we're all clear, this is from mountvernon.org. This isn't like...
Yeah, it's not somebody's Wikipedia or Substack. Oh, my God.
So you need some farmer from Moscow to tell you that this shit exists.
Aaron, what the fuck? So Jefferson was the one who betrayed the document from the beginning, right?
Yes, but I caution you, you have to read all through the history. I mean, Jefferson's not my favorite president.
Who's your favorite?
Lincoln's right up there. I mean,
you think so?
He did some pretty shitty things, but he had to. He did preserve the Union. He wore square toe boots. Just saying.
He wore square toe boots?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Square toe boots.
We wear square toe boots.
That's it. You look just like him. Lincoln had a very, very, very difficult job, obviously, and not just for preserving the Union, but I mean his family aspect of the job.
Wasn't his wife like a incredible, like depressive?
Well, yeah, but you know why?
I don't. The death of the son?
The death of the son.
Yeah.
I mean, think about having that much death on your hands. Think about the time era.
Yeah.
I would say my worst president.
Who's the worst?
Now, I'm not going by modern standards, but I'm going to say
Biden.
Okay. But he is a Pennsylvanian.
That doesn't mean shit.
Buchanan.
James Buchanan?
Worst president.
Really?
Yes. Everybody thinks states succeeded under Lincoln. They did not.
They seceded under Buchanan?
Correct.
He was right before Lincoln?
Yeah. That'd be 15.
Really?
Yeah. I believe he was also of alternative lifestyle too.
Like a furry.
Like the Ministry of Feather Boas.
Yeah.
He had a fondness for his niece.
No.
Mhm.
Is that in history? I mean, obviously, unless you just
it is actually in
page
history.
6, Aaron here about Buchanan.
It is actually in history, and I'll tell you, it's not too, and you could actually verify it. Not too far from here, from a place called I mentioned it before, Bedford Springs. Bedford, when Western Pennsylvania was a frontier. No one ever thinks of Pennsylvania being part of the frontier, but at one point it was. Bedford Springs was like a little community, a little town, and it's actually called the Bedford Springs Inn and Resort now. A lot of historic handwritten documents reside there, sign-in logs from President Buchanan, Harris. And it's actually a pretty cool place because it dates back to the colonial period when that was a frontier, and it goes all the way up to the 20th century. It was actually a prisoner of war camp for the Allied forces.
Really?
Yeah. So I encourage anybody, if they even stay to listen to this podcast with me on it, to look up Bedford Springs Resort. The history of it. It's actually amazing. Huge part of American history.
Wait, so is he a pedo? He's not alive, Aaron. I don't think he's going to get upset. Like, nobody's going to come after us for misinformation for saying a president was a pedo.
I think he was weird. I think he was a weirdo. I just never cared for him.
I'm getting real weirded out about the amount of fucking pedo people. It really bothers me about that. I think it's like the most egregious sin. In my
Any act against a child is
it's the ultimate embodiment of innocence.
Yeah,
and to sully any innocence, I think is like. I know I sound like people think. I probably right now people think I sound like some, a crusader.
Yeah, I don't know how we went from Buchanan to Buchanan being a pedophile.
You said he really liked his niece.
He liked his niece. She acted in somewhat of a first lady capacity.
So he took care of her. Her parents died when she was 11, I think.
Oh well, now I feel terrible.
Well, just go on. He never gets married.
Yeah, he's even a confirmed lifelong bachelor.
Yeah, but does that mean like Bruce Wayne, or does that mean like
Rock Hudson?
There's a big difference.
You study him.
You're not telling me anything.
Well, that's because I
don't
want,
tell me to do my own research on Buchanan.
Do you think anybody else in the world today mentioned James Buchanan?
I mean, probably at his museum.
Does he even have? Does he have one?
Does he have a library?
It would have to be in Pennsylvania.
The Buchanan Library of Weird Books.
He even looks weird.
What's he look like? I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Dude.
What?
He looks weird.
Oh.
We should put that in AI.
He was tall, stately, stiffly formal.
Does Buchanan disappear if he's maintained a societal balance in his opposition? A sectional balance. Born in a well-to-do Pennsylvania family in 1791, Buchanan, a graduate of Dickinson College, was gifted as a debater and learned in the law.
A master debater.
I was just going to say that.
Beat you to it.
Yeah.
So you think he was the worst, huh?
I do.
Besides all the salacious things I just said about him, hopefully they don't sue.
I hope they don't sue. I mean, he was still Pennsylvanian, so you have to respect him. I think he's one of the worst. I mean, now, granted, there's some presidents that only was in office a week or two.
That was William Henry Harrison, right?
But so you can't really. I'm not sure.
There's probably been crazier times than right now.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and history tends to repeat itself, and I know that's an old cliche, but as I demonstrated here in the first 3 presidents, media influence is not nothing new. 2-party systems is not nothing new. So I don't know why we're surprised at it now. I think why we're surprised at it now is back then it took a week or a month to get that into the paper and for the general public to read it. Again.
But then you're just reading it.
Yeah. Now you're seeing live 10-second clips and expect it to make an informed decision on that 10-second clip.
Do you think we're worse off in the history of the country? Do you think we're worse off now as a country, or has there been worse times before? Well,
I certainly think there's been worse times
in our country.
Oh, absolutely. The inception of the country was very tumultuous. I mean, you had loyals, you have to the crown, you had the patriots. The War of 1812.
What year was that? That's my favorite joke.
When did it end?
I thought it ended in 1812.
No, 14. Anyway.
Smacked my face.
You had very tumultuous times there. That's when they burnt the White House. People thought we were done. It was over.
They never really talk about that a lot.
No, it's, the town I'm from, Madison, President Madison's wife famously saved the picture of George Washington that hung in the White House and ran off with it. And they sat down, they ate, British sat down, ate, burnt it. And ironically, there was a storm right after that drove everybody out. So, people saying we have tinfoil hats now, well, they had them back then. They thought that was divine intervention.
Weather modification.
What else? The Mexican-American War, I'm sure that was very tumultuous because not everybody agreed with annexing, what was half of Mexico at the time.
Which was like Texas, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico. Up
into the Californias, all that. The Lost Territories, they call it. Some people think we should have stayed in Mexico City.
We should have kept going?
Yeah. Now you hear the puns, well, we wouldn't have had to build a bigger wall. Civil War was certainly divisive. I mean, the very nature of a civil war, you're divided. Back then, and you got to be very cautious how you approach the Civil War. And the ideas they had to not have it come to that, and the Missouri Compromise and stuff, it just didn't work. People knew it wasn't going to work. And, bloody Kansas. I don't know how deep I need to go into that, but
I don't know any of this.
It's something really to look at. So you had.
They were good.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know.
Sometimes Dan falls asleep.
If you were ejecting me or not, but
I thought he was something.
But you look at it, and people say, "Oh, it's just simply over slavery." Other people say it's simply over state rights, and obviously it was a state right to have slaves. So both are correct. It was the Southern way of preserving their agrarian culture, and the Northern states were where the money was. So they looked at it as tyrannical intervention from the Northern states. So I'm sure that was a worse time than now. You talk to your parents about the 60s, I would be willing to bet that they'd say that was the most scariest time in their history.
They say now is more scarier than the 60s.
Well, some people would say the 60s now resemble each other.
Sure.
What I'm saying is all throughout history there was ups and downs. I think we're in a down now. But as far as being the scariest part of American history, I can't buy that when we had 700,000 Americans killed.
Yeah.
Over a belief. I can't buy it. I think now it's scary because the media plays it for ratings. When did they ever have 24-hour news coverage? Prior to the 1990s?
No, 9/11.
Okay.
9/11 was basically.
Yeah, but they didn't. What I'm saying is they didn't have it in the 1990s.
No.
And people were kind of.
CNN was infomercials after like 10.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the media for ratings play on our mindset. We absolutely hate each other, not because of, the problems that we've seen long ago in our country, but the created problems that the media is spinning.
So is it up to us? I mean, ultimately, it seems like people don't want anybody to like make a decision for you. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like make up your own mind, hear what you got to hear, and then make up your own mind. It seems like COVID taught me that, where it was very like, don't do your own research, which is another way of saying only listen to me.
I think a group of people want to control the narrative. Not kidding. They're not teaching cursive and cursive handwriting anymore. Well, I don't know if it was intended so they could never read the actual text of the Constitution.
But that's a byproduct of it.
But it is a result of it. So if you could control, hey, the Constitution was a pure democratic, the First Amendment never really existed. Well, who would know that in 20 years if you can't actually pick up the document and read it? That's the danger of that stuff.
Holy shit. Does that mean like kids now who look at like cursive are like, we don't know what that means?
Some of them, yeah.
Isn't that crazy? That looks like a foreign language to them.
Yeah, like if you looked at Russian, you would have no idea what you're reading.
Is that what it's like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But think of all the historical documents, even up until the 60s or 70s. They were all, well, I would say maybe to the 40s, they were all handwritten, cursive.
Why would they get rid of that?
So you could control the narrative.
There's only so many hours in the day.
There was enough hours in our day.
But we didn't have, but what they're learning now is different.
It's less.
It's different.
It's less.
Sure it is, but we learn different things than our parents.
What's changed about reading, writing, arithmetic?
They still do that, but now it's on computers. My kid doesn't bring home a single book. It's all on the laptop now and everything. I got my master's through online class. I never bought one graduate book.
Do you think you're better or worse off for that?
I did very well in my master's courses, better than I did in my undergrad.
Dude,
I'm just saying I don't want to be pegged for the guy, with the tinfoil hat, but in reality, it can happen.
That's what's happening. It's a byproduct. Like nobody thinks through do they just think that the collateral damage is fine?
I think it's quicker.
Like it's your own fucking country. You can't read the document that founded your country in your own country. Isn't that crazy?
I would love to pull your listeners. Now, I don't know how many there are.
Sometimes there's a lot. Sometimes there's not.
If there's 4 or 40.
I'm probably going to cut out the whole fucking slave religion thing.
Yeah, I'm still behind you on that. We don't cut anything ever, but that should just be chopped because that was terrible. Just boring and terrible.
Yeah, it was bad.
But I'd be willing to bet maybe 1 out of 50 actually read the original text of the Constitution.
I mean, it's all in print, though, not in cursive.
But is it in print? But this is what I'm saying.
Well, sure it is.
Yeah, physically it's in print.
Yeah.
But who says they didn't change the to this.
Well, okay, so you need to find like the ultimate copy. We could all read cursive. We could do it.
No, you could find it, but what's going to come up the most popular, right? In your Google search.
And that's what people are going to look at.
If the altered version is the most popular version, that's the one 90% of the people are going to do, unless they're freaks like me that go for that original text.
Well, yeah.
That's the argument over first editions.
Yeah.
Never get rid of your first edition books. Like I hear a lot of people saying that, where it's like they change so much stuff when they do like, future revisions. But like the first edition one is the one that you want because it's the purest to the text.
Okay, I buy that. Because
that's like old books though. That's like Huck Finn. Like they've changed it. Like it's not the original book.
Yeah, I don't know if Jim has the same name anymore. I'm not sure. But in that time period,
it's Jane now.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you made my point. Yeah, you could find type text, all that, but it's not the original, and it can be altered without us even knowing what was altered. I prefer to look at history and actually try to read all the history, even the boring shit like I showed you here.
That wasn't boring.
Well, it wasn't boring because I kind of hope I made it a little interesting. It went to our point, but no one's going to sit home and read that when there's a Penn State game in, But
Penn State's playing Michigan, but I heard about this Buchanan president.
Right. So that's the danger I see with that, and that's why I think it's important to actually, analyze the history. The other problem with history is too, on the other side of the coin, is who writes the history. The victors, right?
Always.
So they're going to pick and choose what they want you to read. So, for example, if you're reading Civil War stuff, Dan Sickles would be the best one for it. His writings, he was like a god on earth. You read some of his officers' renditions, what his people wrote about him, he was kind of like a lunatic. Interesting fact about Dan Sickles.
Who's Dan Sickles? You say it
like, like we all know.
He was a general in the Civil War Union. He pretty near caused do you ever hear a little round top, big round top, wheat field type stuff?
I don't know what that means. What's that mean?
That's done on Gettysburg.
It's part of Day 2's battle. So and it's hard to explain like just nonchalantly, but the Union line got kicked back out of the town of Gettysburg to surround it, and they surrounded it in a similar fashion as a fishhook. All right,
okay,
like a J.
Yeah,
with them holding the heights and the Confederacy down below. Military, you kind of want to hold the heights.
Yeah.
So, in the Confederacy, you always want to try to maneuver to flank them, which means go around them or hit them on their flank. That's a very interesting story about the 20th Maine. If you ever have time, read that. But Dan Sickles was right there in that like long shaft of the fishhook.
Okay.
He was always like flamboyant. He wasn't really a military commander, but back then, you had money and influence, you got command. He says, you know what? Everything I learned to go down in this, advance here. Well, it left a wide gap in the fishhook. Now he's fighting in the wheat field and shit. And he actually got his leg shot off. And when they amputated it, they sent it back to Washington, and it's actually on display. Still.
His leg?
Yeah, his leg. But
what the fuck is his? How do I know none of this?
I got the juicy details though after the story.
Where he was so flamboyant and stuff, but it was a danger to his men. But when he wrote that, I did it out of necessity, but he was a nut. He is really famous for being the first guy acquitted for shooting his wife's lover and using the defense of temporarily insanity.
What?
So On February
What?
27th, 1859.
Wait, pull this up. Are you gonna read it?
Yeah, I'll read it for you. Yeah,
Well,
Adams, you read
I
it.
want to see it.
Ugh. Then I gotta do all these screens,
Oh, Dan, just do it right the first time.
but then I can't read over there.
You could read here.
I can't see all the way over there. You crazy?
I'll read it. Want me to read it?
Yeah, or just read
Right
this.
there?
Yeah.
On February 27th, 1859, in Lafayette Square, across the street from the White House, Sickles shot and killed Philip Barton Key II, the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, and the son of Francis Scott Key.
Yep.
Sickles had discovered that Philip Key was having an affair with his wife, Teresa Baggioli Sickles. He shot the son of Francis Scott Key. Oh my God.
See, like if you gave me that headline, I would have learned more about this guy then.
Holy shit. Sickles surrendered at Attorney General Jeremiah Black's house a few blocks away and confessed to the murder. After a visit to his home accompanied by a constable, Sickles was taken to jail. He received numerous what is that word? Perquisites, including being allowed. Is that a real word, Dan?
I'm thinking maybe it should be prerequisites.
No. Including being allowed to retain his personal weapon and receive numerous visitors. Oh, so he was on house arrest. So many visitors came that he was granted the use of the head jailer's apartment to receive them. They include many congressmen, senators, and other oh my God, of Washington State. President James Buchanan.
There's our boy.
Sent Sickles a personal note.
Yep.
Holy shit. So at the time, who would these people be comparable to today? Like who would Sickles and who would he be compared to today? And Jeremiah Black.
Oh, boy, you're putting me on the spot here.
Because I always think there's people who are equated like equivalent. So it's like, okay, if you think of John Wilkes Booth and you say like George Clooney, people are like, oh, okay, I get that. He was like at the time, he was the most famous guy in America besides the president.
Yeah, I really can't. You know who pops to mind?
Who?
Hunter Biden.
So Sickles is Hunter Biden?
That's my initial thought. Flamboyant.
Yeah,
really did nothing in his professional
and then he
life.
was treated like a goddamn king.
And then he was treated like a king. Yeah.
Wow. Despite his one-leg disability.
Do they have a picture of his leg? They have
They have
to.
a picture without his leg.
No, they have to have a picture of the leg because it's actually on display somewhere. I just can't write.
Do you think when he's not posing for pictures, people are carrying him? Can you look up Sickles' leg?
I'm telling you, I'm a sicko.
What's
with
his name?
stupid information.
What's his real name?
Shit, what I do?
You grabbed the wrong thing.
Dan Sickles.
Thing.
All right, Dan, this is gonna take too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a psycho.
But going back because I like to match the points. If you read just his letters and the affluent people he surrounded himself with, he would be like a great, like, oh my God, this guy's an American hero. But when you actually read the history surrounding it, he might not be the American hero people think. And I'm not taking anything away from his service and stuff.
Oh, it's like the bones of the leg.
Well, when it first happened, it wouldn't be the bones.
Well, I thought somebody like
The goddamn thing was shot off in battle.
I thought somebody like put it in like
They did.
plastic.
They did. They put it in the glass with the flesh still on it in the bowl.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That must have been disgusting. Oh, the day before my birthday. On the evening of July 2nd, 1863, while riding horseback during the second day of fighting at Gettysburg, 3rd Army Corps Commander Major General Daniel Sickles had his right leg shattered by a solid 12-pound cannonball. He quieted his horse, dismounted, and was removed to a sheltered area where his leg was amputated just above the knee by Surgeon Thomas Sim, U.S. Volunteers. Do you think that his leg got shot off? He just quieted his horse. Does that mean shoot it, or does that mean like keep it calm?
Keep it calm, pet her. So it didn't run away with him.
Do you really think that happened? How does he get his leg removed by a 12-inch cannonball and not hit the horse?
Well, I wasn't there.
But think about it. Doesn't that make sense? It seems like a made up story. I'm just saying.
I'm saying
I'm skeptical of everything now.
I don't know. I wouldn't be skeptical of it actually happening.
No, I mean, I think his leg got blown off, but I think the circumstances maybe were a little for valor, for bravery. You said he made shit up.
Well, I said he was a bullshitter. I don't.
Dan, what else is bullshitter known as anywhere else in the world? A liar? Making shit up?
Well, that not necessarily. Somebody that likes to exaggerate.
Exaggeration. I wouldn't call a bullshitter a liar. I'd call him an exaggerator.
Sickles it's the first time I've ever heard that guy's name, and now all I know is he's an exaggerator.
And he shot Francis Scott Key's son.
What a prick.
But you see, like, I don't understand. I don't understand why people don't. I guess everybody each their own, but I don't know why people don't see that as being like interesting to read.
It's interesting to us. It's interesting to me.
I would make a movie on some of these characters.
Well, nobody believe it. It's like the truth is stranger than fiction thing.
There you go.
Yeah. So like if you imagine a movie, right, where I was going to say the whole Woody Harrelson bit from Saturday Night Live, where it's like the drug dealers then force you to take their drugs. I mean, that's the world we're living in now. We have like all these crazy people who are just like bought and paid for. And what are you writing? What's happening?
I think we need to go to a commercial break.
You have to pee?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go pee. Go pee, and then we'll talk about milk.
I'm like, I fall asleep. How do I close this window?
You done with Dan Sickles? Devil Dan?
Well, this is just his leg. I don't need to see his leg anymore. Whatever. You guys talk now.
Isn't he the worst? Isn't Dan the worst?
Dan, I don't know if he's the worst.
He's not even changing cameras right now.
Well, I'm getting there. Hold on. I never bring us back in.
I can't wait till you release that song.
It's a good song, isn't it?
Did I just ruin it, or?
Well, it's from Khaki Squire. Our
Dan has made up. Remember Gene King?
No.
You remember around here like the ads for like come down to Gene King?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we might have taken some earth medicines one day and came up with a guy by the name of Gene King, the Gene King. And his tell him about Khaki Squires.
Well, his Jiffy Two Chords was his friend.
Jiffy Two Chords was his friend, and he could not hear Van Halen.
Right, all he heard was but Sammy Hagar. No, was it all Van? Oh yeah, he couldn't hear Van Halen with David Lee Roth. It just sounded like bells and whistles and like just like ambient noise. But then, so Gene King was really, really, really into Van Halen. It was his favorite band and everything like that. So then the one day, Jiffy Two Chords, who was like Gene King's soulmate, best friend, buddy, he finally heard Sammy Hagar Van Halen and thought it was complete shit and hated it so much, and that caused the divide between Gene King and Jiffy Two Chords.
Now, let me ask you, our generation.
Did I eat paint chips?
Well, I won't ask you that then. Our generation, everybody had nicknames, right?
Yeah.
Give me Two Chords, whatever.
What was yours?
Tex.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mine was Wet Pants.
Elaborate.
You might want to cut to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. There I am.
Tell me the whole story of Wet Pants.
It involved my high school girlfriend, and then me not going home immediately after hanging out with my high school girlfriend.
What does that mean?
Yeah, that is such a skirt.
It is. Well, she had a skirt on too that day. Whoa.
Does this have to do with sex stuff?
Yeah.
Ew. Ew.
So Wet Pants?
Yeah. I'm not proud of it.
Yeah, but you said it. You could have said nothing.
It was on my volleyball jersey.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, they didn't know. But then because of me, they weren't allowed to have nicknames on the back of their jerseys anymore.
You put Wet Pants on your volleyball jersey?
Again, I didn't always make good choices at 17.
Well, how the hell did they allow that? Like someone actually had to sew it on there.
Well, it was screen printed, but yeah.
You know what, man? I never thought that I would like reminisce about high school being better, but it really was.
Well, I had Tex as a nickname. He had Wet Pants. I don't know.
What was mine? I didn't really have one. Like one or two people called me Denny. Like the hippie chicks, they called me Denny. Yeah. That was it. And I was just Marky. Because nobody could differentiate between me and my dad, so they just called me Marky. And that's how I got Marky. And then that's why my name is my name on Facebook, because my sister was trying to block my dad from looking at her pictures and blocked me instead back on Facebook days when you couldn't see the profile picture and you can just type in a name to block the person.
Yeah.
So I changed it to Marky so that she knew who to block and who not to block. She's like, yo, did you see my pictures? And I'm like, yo, you're hoeing it out on a boat. Like,
seemed like everybody though. Like it was second nature. Just meet someone, give them a nickname.
We had a kid in school we called Psycho. He was a good kid.
Yeah.
But he was crazy. We really didn't have like a lot of nicknames.
Oh, we did.
Did you guys really?
Yeah, we were riddled with them. Yeah, I had a friend, Bung Lung.
Bung Lung?
Yeah, because he coughed real hard once.
Once.
Yeah, that's all it takes back then.
Hot Pants. We had Yerk Off.
Yerk Off.
Adaptations of their last name.
I'm sure Yerk was in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yerky. In fact, I still go to Home Depot and ask.
Is Yerk Off here?
Could you, my elderly father or grandfather, could you page him, Mr. Yerkoff, please?
Do you do that at Lowe's?
I do. I'm still, and I'm afraid if I ever run for public office again that this will get out. But I don't know.
It seems like politicians nowadays, the ones that everyone's paying attention to, are the ones that just speak their mind and say whatever they say. That realize that people are fallible. They're not perfect.
Well, I don't know if that's even, a bad thing, but I mean, you guys didn't even want me wearing my glasses when I ran.
Because they reflect. Couldn't see your beautiful eyes.
Okay.
He's got great eyes.
This shows a sign of weakness. I don't know.
Who said that? Michelle said that?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't say that. Where are your glasses? I did a shoot.
Yeah, I know.
Put them back on.
I can't see anyway.
Well, you're not like Dan's more of a Rick Moranis. You're more of a Tex.
Okay.
Hey, he gets Janine in the end.
Yeah. Honey, I shrunk my wet pants.
What do you say, Wet Pants? Are we talking about?
They used to call me Melon too.
Melon was the best.
Melon.
We called Dan Melon because his head's so large.
It's like an orange on a toothpick.
Yep.
It's like Sputnik.
Yep. Spherical but pointy at parts. It's almost like we practiced that one.
Right.
Yeah, it was good. Head move. I once saw, what are those dogs? What are those dogs with the big heads, the small bodies, and when they oh my God, they have like the short legs.
Basset hounds?
No. But it looks like when it's happy, like the whole body goes. If I saw it, I'd know. I forget the name. I forget the breed of dog, but that's what it reminded me of because I went over to this girl's house and she had one of these dogs, and I'm like, his head is fucking huge. He looks like Dan. So I want to talk to you about. I'm really big now on like. Do you know what MAHA is? The Make America Healthy Again movement.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of that, and I think.
Do you have a poster of Kennedy in your bedroom?
Not in my bedroom, but I have a couple yard signs.
Boy, isn't there a stark difference from what we had?
What do you mean?
Rachel Levine.
Richard?
Well, whatever.
I don't. Look,
but
people call me a transphobe for calling him Richard, but if you knowingly look, the person who has a degree in psychology that focuses on adolescent eating disorders should not be the person in charge on whether or not to close down, whether or not to shut down businesses, to put elderly people in nursing homes, make sure they don't go outside and get vitamin D, and takes their mother out of the nursing home, puts her in a hotel so that everyone else's grandparents and parents can fucking die and suffer alone. Sorry, man.
And
I'm dead naming you.
And Elon Musk's the problem now, right?
It seems like we have a really short memory.
It
seems well, I think the COVID thing. Okay, so this all has to do with health. So at least we're on topic. I think the whole COVID thing opened up a lot of people's eyes to like something's up. And I think, I mean, the biggest thing was health. So like, why do you shut the country down? Because it's health. There's an illness. There's something that, you know, they tell us is rampant, and it's, you see people in China just dropping dead. So they say. And then the only way to do it is some sort of mandated novel product. What's he showing you?
Go back to that last screen. No. Come on, go back to the last one.
What the fuck is that?
So you're over here talking. You got me on like big head, small body dogs. So I started like looking at all these pictures, and it's like you're over here talking all nice about this stuff, and I'm like starting to like giggle. Yeah, this guy here.
No, see,
I can't see it.
I would be proud. To
that's a dog with like no shoulders.
I would love that dog.
You think so?
I would.
One that has to turn its whole body to look anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a sucker for
corgi. It was a corgi.
I'm a sucker.
You look like a corgi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That poor dog. No, this wasn't Photoshopped. It's what happens when idiots breed dogs. Click that one. You know the one I'm talking about, Dan. Let's see that one.
Well, that's what I went to.
You just got to click it. There we go. What's his name?
It reminds me of that guy on TikTok.
No Neck?
Yeah, No Neck.
Are you on TikTok a lot?
Well,
as I was saying, I'm pretty big into the Maha shit, right? Clean air, clean soil, clean water. And when I first met you, you were very, I was very surprised because I didn't think that there were actual like dairy farmers around here. I thought it was all like Crawley's milk. And, you know, I wasn't aware that there was like an alternative to like grocery stores. And you at your dairy was the first time I ever had raw milk. And I shit you not, I thought of my childhood, like when I drank it. Did you ever see the movie Ratatouille?
Yeah.
When he eats the ratatouille, he's like, he remembers like being a boy, and he's not a curmudgeon, and that was like, and that's all I drink anymore.
Raw milk.
Raw milk. Yep. I go up to Montiel Farmers Market, everything natural.
How do you feel?
I mean, I feel good, but what was that like, having like a dairy farm, and why is it no more? Because that really broke my heart.
Well, it was very hard work.
Yeah.
But very rewarding, especially with a son. You know, it teaches you respect for the animals. It gives you an end product. It gives you business aspect to do the things right to produce the best. It gave you the joy of customers like you that relied on it. A lot of people relied on it for various different reasons. Some people just liked it. Some people medically, they claimed that it helped them. Lactose intolerant people bought my raw milk, and it was okay with it. And
lactose intolerant people didn't have the problems with your milk.
No.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, but if you follow the science, you'd know why. Everybody claims to follow the science, but I don't know if they do. The sugars in the milk. When you pasteurize it, you kill everything. You create
all the good
sugars.
Probiotics and all
everything you kill. You also kill the bad stuff that could be in there. But the natural stuff, when you pasteurize, you have to put back in, and then there's a campaign to get more vitamin D, but take your test tube and pour vitamin D in the milk, and voila, you got clean pasteurized milk. If you want to take it another step further, you homogenize it, which takes all the milk particles and blows them up so it looks pretty. So it don't separate. If you notice, raw milk separates. The cream on top.
Yep.
So homogenation under pressure takes all the molecules and makes them look pretty. It makes it look nice, pure white milk. The real raw product isn't like that. It's exactly what it says, raw. Now, a lot of people claim the health benefits on it. I'm, for one, is an advocate for it. On the other side, just strong arguments about bacteria and stuff. But the truth of the matter is, it's tested so thoroughly. If you're clean, and like what we did is, we had a small dairy. We weren't milking 3,000 head or even 200. We were milking upwards to 12 at a time. So we were able to keep it very, very clean. And my philosophy was less manipulation on the milk made it taste better. And I think that was evident in my milk. We had a certain brand of cows. It was Jerseys. I was after the fat content in it to make other things like butter, yogurts, all that. But I think raw milk, when it's done right, is perfectly safe. And when you develop less manipulation of it, it tastes better and is more healthy for you. For example, what I did that was very unique is my bulk tank, after we got done milking, my bulk tank went right into the plant I had and either got separated for the milk fat, or it got bottled for fluid milk. And it never really ran through pumps and all this other stuff. Our pumps were, they squeezed the tube, so it really never beat up the milk, so to speak. What happened to it? I think it was a repercussion of me running for government.
Do you really think so?
I do, yeah. I had a milk inspection from my regular milk inspector a week prior with no issues. I was in the top tier of the cleanest farms in the state. Again, I only had 12. My barn had...
It's one of the cleanest places I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, I call piss board because it's the same stuff you see in commercial bathrooms.
Yeah,
it wasn't whitewashed wood. We took care of the animals as if they were pets, not just a source of income. So, when we had 3 milk inspectors come up from Harrisburg, that set up a little bit of an alarm that I never seen, especially since I had a milk inspection the week prior, which I passed. Then they start writing me up for nonsense stuff. Like at the time we had a pressure washer because we actually cleaned the barn. Like we cleaned it down with pressurized hoses. A lot of people don't do that. They don't want water in there and whatnot, but we had a way to dry it, and, we kept it immaculate. They wrote us on that. They wanted us to have a boot washer, which wasn't even in the regulations.
For their hooves?
No, for
walking in and out.
Yeah. What else? A automatic door closer, which in between the barn and the milk house, it's a regulation, but on an outside door, it was not on the barn. Of course, you could appeal it, but it also costs money to appeal it. Of course, I won it. Right after that, another guy came, another 3 inspectors from Harrisburg come up and want to look at the milk plant. Okay. And then I let my mouth run away and say, you better hope I don't get in, because if you guys have this much money allocated to you to come look at a 3 or a 12 cow dairy, there's something wrong when you have these corporate farms and stuff. They come in and, there was a tag from my original milk inspector on the pasteurizer, because we also did pasteurize it for the customers that wanted it. And they tag it, and you can't break that tag. It's illegal. So I didn't put it on. I don't possess the tags. So they came in and says, I don't think the previous milk inspector inspected this properly and just cut the tag. Does that sound like something that's very professional?
What?
Yeah.
I don't think the previous inspector did this right, so I'm just going to cut it.
Yeah.
No calling him, going like
nothing. And it was her. But yes, the product that was out was okay to be sold, but they cut the tag, so I couldn't do no more. There's something called a PMO, Pasteurized Milk Ordinance. It's probably a book that's 4 inches thick. And it really pertains to corporate farms. People with like 10,000 gallon tanks that bring in milk from all over the countryside into the plant, like a Penn State type plant.
Yeah.
Dump it in. It calls for catwalks. Well, I didn't have catwalks because my tanks were probably 4 foot tall. They were only 90 gallon tanks. If you remember what I said before, I filled them up. I brought them right in so you didn't have the milk manipulation.
Yeah, I was there when you were doing it.
They failed it because it didn't have catwalks. Where the hell are they going to put catwalks on a 4 foot tank? So I seen the writing on the wall. And, if I probably could have appealed it, fought it, won it. But how far was I going to go?
Because they're going to catch you again.
The very next week was the election. It was like, what am I going to do here? And it's not like you could just turn the cows off. They needed to be milked and stuff. So I made the decision that this was never going to go. They wanted a concrete exercise yard. Now I have pastures. I have grass pastures. They wanted a concrete exercise yard. And I said, okay, this
like
is
a prison yard.
Yeah. Yeah. All concrete, no grass, just, hay, whatever. How could I afford that? I only had 12 cows. What am I doing? So seen the writing on the wall. And like I said, I had to take a loss on the cattle and sold off the herd. That was probably one of the toughest days of my life. And, I lost both parents and stuff. I'd put it right up in there. I lost a girlfriend when I was in high school. I'd put it right up there at the toughest days. Seeing that trailer, my lady's gone.
Why do you think, why does it seem like there's like an assault on the American farmer?
That's a good question. And going back into history again, this country was formed on agriculture. It was supposed to be an agrarian society. In Jefferson's mind, that's what he wanted. Why? Because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of corporate greed out there. Pasteurization, people argue and call me an idiot, I'm sure, once you see when this airs. But pasteurization, there's two things. It increases shelf life. Well, what's that good for? Corporations. For stores. Homogenation makes it look pretty. So, all in all, I think the assault on the American farmer is competition globally. My philosophy, and if I was able to have the privilege of serving the Commonwealth like I wanted to, I would really push to have some of these small community farms be brought in here. Keep it regional. There's no reason why the Scranton metropolitan area can't have a processing plant, even if it's not raw. Have a processing plant serviced from the North Pocono, Abington area farmers, that the generational farmers want to keep doing it, but you can't. You're beholden to the government when you're in farming. They have you hamstrung so tight, you have to rely on government funds when you get into the bigger farms. Farmer don't want to do that. A farmer wants to either grow his crops, sell it for profit, not be subsidized by government. Me, I wanted a dairy. It was so hard to get the license to do raw milk and the other stuff we had. It was so hard to develop a small scale plant because it's not made for us small guys. It's made for the big corporations like Coca-Cola Corporation and stuff.
Crowley,
Lehigh Valley. And let's face it, folks, what you're getting out of there is milk that's mass produced from the animal. They don't care if shit flies in it because it's going to the plant to get pasteurized and stuff. And, you know, people view it as like part of it is what it is. When you have a small scale, you take pride in it. You let people see what you're doing. You're tested just like the big guys, if not more, and you have to pay for it. We had a really good thing going. And I'm convinced, had I not ran for government, that small dairy concept would have took off in our area.
So do I.
I do, and I believe it would have inspired younger generations to do what I did. Now I'm fortunate that we had the property, the heritage of it, and I invested my money wisely in it. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any government oversight because people's health is paramount, but don't make it so cumbersome that you can't do it. DEP in the farming life is terrible too.
The Department of Environmental Protection?
Absolutely terrible. They're worried about Chesapeake Bay watershed.
I know something a little bit about this.
Okay, but let's break it down in the farmer's view. If we're spreading fertilizer and stuff, we don't want that shit running off either because we're paying for it. It's not us you have to worry about. It's Johnny Homemaker that's putting 10 times the amount he needs. No one's ever said there, but to pick on the farmer. You got a lot of influx from out-of-town people. It'd be like someone from Center City, Scranton moving into Moscow in a farming area in the Madison Township. I can't stand the smell of cow shit. Why'd you move here?
Right.
So you got that pressure now. You got a lot of zoning ordinances now. Zoning's good for people who don't listen. It's not good for like people like me or you who actually care about the environment, the community we live in. We don't want to shit it up. These people who don't know anything come up there, think they could rule the roost, and that's why you need zoning. So it's very hard to get back into agriculture in this area because of that. Everything's turning into developments now.
How do we fix that?
Well, I
would love for like 2 years from now. It's like, man, there's all these little local farms and local dairies, and
it's going to take state intervention. It's going to take local intervention, like our county commissioners, our county commissioner.
Just one.
Someone who wants to actually do the right thing. You have to get people involved in state politics that are actually there for the community, that could see some type of economic growth using agriculture to accomplish this. You have to critique the Department of Environmental Services to accommodate these folks and work with them instead of against them. You got to change the whole mindset. And I'm telling you, farming in the heyday was probably 60s, 70s, 80s. What did we have there? We had a middle class, a true middle class. And I fear going down this road because it's a little veers off topic a little bit. But we had a true middle class. And why? Because we actually manufactured goods. We actually had companies that built tangible items. Now what do we have? Your big investments in America are not agriculture or not even tangible items.
I think it's tech and healthcare.
It's intellectual stuff, tech.
Yeah.
So there's no middle class to imagine or build the tech as we did with automobiles, farm tractors, equipment. So you wiped out that whole middle class. Where that relates to agriculture is you wiped out all that, the means for that middle class to get into agriculture. So what had happened from back then, farmers had larger families. What are they going to leave one kid to farm? I don't know. I got a brother. I can't agree on what to eat for dinner with him, let alone run a farm. Okay, you split up. You get the equity, you get the farm. Well, you need the equity to get the farm, to fund the farm. So that don't work. So that dissolves everything. So it's a different mindset that we have now than we did in the 80s and 90s that could bring that type of agriculture back. I don't think it's impossible. I just think you need the right people in there to advocate for it, people who actually did it. And I have no doubt that it would come back with some deregulation, and I'm not saying the safety side, but like the nonsense with the PMO, and Pennsylvania is a strong enough agricultural state to actually make their own. Just don't do it.
You don't foresee any of that changing in the near future, do you?
No, because you don't have the right people. I'm not saying I might have been the right person, but I mean,
you could at least have it seems like a common sense thing. It seems like, why wouldn't anybody get behind this? Then you don't have to rely on supply chains for stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to worry about like your milk coming from Tennessee, or your avocados flying to South America to get a sticker to fly back.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, even like if you remember my dairy, everything was served in recyclable glass.
Yeah, you return your bottles.
I mean, true recycle, not this bullshit we have today that co-mingles end up in the garbage anyway.
Yeah,
recycling's a joke.
But it's a big illusion that no one realizes.
It's a joke.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Co-mingle means just goes in the garbage compactor later on down the road. But anyway, like mine was truly recyclable. We cared for the earth. Why? Because
we live here.
Income was derived from the earth, with feeding the cows and pasturing them and stuff. So I don't know why there's such an assault on the American farmer. And people like AOC and all that nonsense with carbon emissions and Chesapeake Watershed Authority and all that bullshit.
So about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, the head of EPA comes here, Lee Zeldin, right? And I get hooked into a phone call like 2 nights before with this guy who's like the guy for the Chesapeake. Like, he understands like all of it, right? About like the rain tax and all that. He's pretty much against the rain tax. That's his whole thing, right? And he starts telling me the story, working his way down the Lackawanna, all the ones that empty out into the Chesapeake. And he mentions, did I tell you about this?
I don't know.
And he mentions, he's like, and it all goes to Chesapeake Bay. So there was concerns about pollution in the Chesapeake Bay and blah, blah, blah. And then he mentioned, and at the time, they were over hunting oysters. And my brain went, oh my God. I said, stop right there. I said, I watched a video where they put dirty water on one side, dirty water on the other side, put oysters in this one, no oysters in that one. And within 24 hours, like, the oysters cleaned up all the water. Like, it was drinkable. And he goes, yeah, oysters are nature's like Brita filter. And he goes, because they over harvested in the Chesapeake Bay, none of the water got cleaned. He goes, so they stopped harvesting the oysters. And I'm like, well, how's the water now? He goes, it doesn't matter. They still have all these regulations there.
Yeah, you're never going to repeal regulation.
No.
And that's the problem. He
was telling me about people upstream who have like, some people pay a $15 $1,000 a year rain tax in some places.
That's where I'm going with this. Once you have that money rolling in and stuff, you're not going to. You're just going to redistribute it somewhere else to entitlement programs. You're not going to get rid of it. No one can make a mistake anymore in this society, or at least they won't admit to it. The right thing to do would be relax the Chesapeake Water Bay Authority, Delaware River Water Authority.
They get hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Yeah, so you're never going to see that lifted. But in reality, what that does to someone who wants to come back with agriculture makes another layer of loops to jump through.
Where it's like, man, I just want to open up a farm.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
It's like that meme with the libertarian being like, I just wanted to paint my house. You know what I mean? Did you ever see that one?
No.
I never showed you that one? All right, keep going. I'll find this.
I'll tell you what the other where we're at now is where I had a real problem is veterinarians.
Why?
You didn't have. We were fortunate enough to secure a large animal veterinarian, but people see, that's not where the money is. It's cats and dogs and I don't know.
What do you mean?
I thought there was big money in like horses and stuff.
There might be, but you're trying to do this as think of it as a business.
Sure.
And
you're going to have more turnover with smaller animals.
Right. So it's easier to deal with the smaller animals than it is coming out to, like a Dr. Pole and coming out and helping you with a breech birth and all this. So that the farmer really
there's no more farmer vets.
Very few. And I had a real problem getting our vets for bovine vets, they'd be called, to come out to my farm. Now, fortunately, we had one or two. One really didn't want to do it unless you paid him an ungodly amount of money. The other one was an old timer. He's probably in his 80 years old. And, he'd come out. But that's a real concern with starting something like this back up. The other concern is the equipment. Now, I'm mechanical. Most farmers would be mechanical. I take a particular fondness into, 70s, 80s type equipment, possibly older, 60s, something you could fix on your own. Well, John Deere, our biggest agricultural equipment supplier, prioritizes their computerization of it. So if you wanted to change an oil filter, you have to call John Deere Tech out on this new equipment to reset the computer. The farmer can't do it. So that's a huge concern because the farmer you can't wait a month to harvest.
Fix your fucking tractor.
Yeah, to harvest corn or whatnot. The old saying, you better make hay when the sun shines. Well, you only have a small window or you could lose the whole crop. The problem is you can't fix your own tractor or equipment anymore.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah. So another huge problem. So a lot of us smaller guys use older, antiquated equipment because we could work on them. But what's that going to leave you in 10 or 15 years? I personally run, my favorite tractor on the farm is a 1963 John Deere 3020. 1963. I'm running it in 2025.
The year Kennedy was assassinated.
Yep. I can't afford a $300,000 tractor to milk 12 or 20 cows.
Oh my God. So when you see like all those commercials with John Deere like doing all this shit and you go to like the farm shows and stuff, it's like the normal like farmer, it's just like thumbing their nose at them.
Pretty
like,
much.
Like the average, the guy who just wants to like, I just want to be a dairy farmer or wheat or hay or.
That's why it's a memory. You have to be a corporate farmer to make it now. And
and that's the whole food supply.
Yes.
That's the whole food supply.
And who owns a lot of these corporate farms?
Tyson. Robert Kennedy said that like 20 years ago, there was like 1,000 or 10,000 like pork farms or whatever. Now there's 4 owned by the 4 largest corporations.
And if you look into their history, who are they owned by?
R.J. Reynolds.
Yeah.
Are you right?
Probably.
Coca-Cola.
No.
Conglomerate.
Kraft.
Yep.
Mm. I mean, pick any of them.
I would be willing to bet, and I'd love to have the data on this, but I don't. I'm going to say it. I'd be willing to bet a lot of these corporate farms have foreign influence on us.
Like China or China. Dude, that's why I'm so big on, like, once you start realizing like what it is, it's like, oh, okay, only these 4 companies handle all your ham and your bacon.
Yeah. Kind of like an insurance company. They have something called a reinsurance. It's really only a huge umbrella with these little tentacles coming out. You think they're all different companies?
Those all need to be destroyed.
Well, there you go.
This is why I'm big on like the Mahat thing. Like once you start thinking about it, it's like, oh, and then who makes, and then what other deals are being made to put stuff into all those pigs in those 4 companies?
Yeah, because they're now they're corporate. They have shareholders to answer to.
Yeah, but like the feed, you're making deals for the feed.
Well,
everybody's getting rich there.
How do you make money in a corporation? Sell.
Yeah, with the worst product.
So you bulk the shit out of them and off they go.
And you think they really give a fuck about what they're putting in the feed or the vaccines or any of that they're vaccinating every animal, every chicken, every pig, every cow, every fucking turkey. Everything
you eat. At least
they want to put vaccines in the fucking produce. Did you see that?
No.
Well, they do.
Tyson had a pretty good commercial on. You can't fix everything with antibiotics. Now they're corporate, so they're gonna they're throwing this shit out. They're bullshitters, I'd say. Not quite liars, but exaggerators. So they're out there doing that shit. Whether that animal needs it or not, it's getting it. That's not healthy. The way I did our routine vaccinations, but I actually worked around that cow. I didn't have robotics. They have milking machines now that the cow will pick when it wants to go, which is a good thing. But you never see that cow face to face. It goes into a building. AI shoots the cleaner up on the teats. And I said it right, teats. A milking machine comes on it. Gets pumped into the bulk tank, gets, they're waiting for the thing. Come on. These things are living animals. Take your time with them. Be around them. Check them for mastitis. Check them for different illnesses. That's what keeps the whole herd safe. Well, you think this bird flu just came in from like a small farmer?
Or a lab in Atlanta?
But it didn't spread by a small, 200 flock farmer in Northeast PA. It spread by corporate farms, hundreds of thousands.
Which is the whole reason they got to pasteurization in the first place, because of in the cities when you were trying to do like dairy there. Of course, the conditions aren't good. In New York City, you're trying to fucking milk cows.
Yeah, well, you didn't have the cooling.
So you started doing all that shit, and then what do you end up with? You end up with facilities that are just as bad or worse than the conditions that were when you introduced pasteurization.
Correct. And you didn't have
weird.
You didn't have the cooling capacities we have now and the technology. I'm telling you. And people are so indoctrinated by seeing these corporate farms mistreat these animals and all this stuff. A small farmer, that's his livelihood. He's not going to beat it with a stick.
Or throw it out the back of a truck.
Yeah, he's not a transient. This is how he's making his life. He's feeding his family.
It's like Jerry Jones punching every fucking player on the Cowboys with cattle prods and sticks.
Yeah.
That is not an excuse for slavery. I'm just saying it's equivalent.
You got friends, right?
Not anymore.
3.
But the reality is,
Travis.
answering your question, I'm bringing back this one. It'd be very hard, not impossible.
Would you consider it again if they made it easier for the American dairy farmer, American farmer in general?
100%. I would.
Do you think it's a federal problem or a state problem?
Both. The PMO is federal, pasteurized milk ordinance that you have to follow, the 4-inch binder that you have to read. But the state needs to step in, and you know, I'm sure you all heard about Amos Miller.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the guy who got arrested?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, he had a clientele. They knew what they were buying. Like, the American people are not babies. They could do their own research. They could see what they want to purchase.
I've drank 2 gallons and I haven't shit my pants or my head exploded. I think it's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This is fucking nuts, Aaron.
It is, but this is
This is all control.
Big media controlling you, saying how bad it is, and I'm telling, I'm a realist. I did it. I was successful at it. I do see some farms that couldn't do it, that needed to have pasteurized milk because of their conditions. But be real with the people. Not every farm is like that. And you could have a great agricultural economy in this area based on that, feeding our local area.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Then if they drop a nuclear bomb on Vegas, we don't have to worry about like where our milk and stuff is coming from.
Most of our milk is probably coming from Maryland or upstate New York to a processing plant in Pennsylvania somewhere, being manipulated, packaged, and sold to us.
And what you're telling me is basically it's like when you said about like the stuff where like they don't care about the conditions because they know it's going to get pasteurized anyways. So what you're basically telling me is like it's like water that has been poisoned with like poo and pee, and nobody's really worried about it because somewhere they're going to treat it. But instead of just getting fresh water, we filled it full of poo and pee and then we treated it.
That's a unique analogy, but yes.
I mean, it's basically, I mean, if there's bacteria, if there's bad conditions, I think you said shit. It doesn't matter if like they put shit in the milk because it's going to get taken care of.
Yeah. They don't care.
What a terrible world we live in.
It is. That's, you know, I'd invite anybody to argue the agricultural side with me. I lived it. These people are reading shit out of a book.
Well, it used to be like, okay, the Turner farm is bad because we all just got, remember, I like the Pasquicchio family, but one time they got, and it wasn't theirs, they just got it shipped in, but remember like all of La Festa got sick?
Oh, La Festa salmonella?
Yeah, La Festa salmonella.
Because they were selling undercooked chickens.
That happens, and this is probably from a big provider. Like for every time that you say like, oh, like the neighborhood or the community dairy or whatever, it's like you can say that you can come up with the excuses for like they're not good, they're not this, but it's like those corporations, how many millions of dollars in fines have they paid?
You don't know.
Oh, is it hidden?
I didn't look it up, but people don't give a shit as long as they have milk on their table for cereal. They don't give a shit where it comes from. That mindset has to change. I'm very sure that they have a lot more, because they're faceless corporations.
It's a logo.
Yeah, we go to church with these folks. We shop with these folks. We want our product to be top notch because that is our reputation. That's the basic about every family business. I don't care what it is, school buses or dairy farming or cattle farming, vegetable farming. That is their reputation. They're not going to jeopardize it or they won't be in business.
It almost seems like the way to forget everything else. The way to do it is make sure that the people in the, like, you're right. We go to church with them. We see them at the hardware store. Mm-hmm. They're going to say, you poisoned me.
Yeah. And that's not good.
And you better fix your shit or else we're not coming back again.
That's the way it was.
I think we got to get back to that.
I agree.
Don't you?
But you need some strong
I get my
leadership.
milk at Manning, so.
Is Manning's good? Do Manning's like over-pasteurize their shit?
I believe they pasteurize and homogenize.
They do both.
They do, yeah.
But they're trying to keep up with corporate farms. They have good
They should
product.
never have to.
Stay in business. What are you going to do? You going to let the Joneses pass you by?
Do they do raw milk there too?
I don't think they do.
It's a special license. It takes a lot of hard work to do raw milk.
I'm assuming probably, I don't know, but probably based on what they have set up and everything up there, it's designed for pasteurized milk, and probably to get into the raw milk game, it probably would turn over everything that they do there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I bet you there'd be a huge market for that around for them now.
I think they're doing all right.
Yeah, I would say pasteurization. Remember what I said. It's not, I'm not saying have dirty milk because I enjoy their products.
Yeah, I'm not saying you are either.
But
when you pasteurize, you get rid of a lot of the good stuff in there.
you have a very high expectation. Right now, they could use pipelines and stuff and not physically scrub them. They could clean them with cleaners because they're pasteurizing.
Yeah.
That takes an awful lot of labor if you're not.
I remember watching your guys, man. They really...
Yeah. There's a process. And before you even let anybody...
You milk them twice a day, right?
Yeah, twice a day. Before you let anybody hands-on, I mean, it's probably about a good 6 months training them. And you're still worried about letting go. You want to see that cow every day. You want to see the cleaning procedures every day done right. You know, if it's, 30 seconds of dipping in a bleach wash, I don't want to see 22 seconds. I want to see the full 30 seconds. If I tell you to scrub every inch of it, I want every inch, not just go through the motions. You couldn't do it with raw milk.
Well, I'm happy you did it. I hope you consider it again.
I don't know.
I don't know what EMP I have to drop like a Bond villain to make it like Fran's like, oh, no one's paying attention now. I can do raw milk again.
we need some strong leadership. I think we have the younger generation wants to go back to that.
I hear them.
It's such a rewarding business to be in. It's an economic boom to the area. I think it's a great deal, but you got to move on it, or all of the farmland is going to be developments and not feasible.
If it keeps going the way it's going, there's not going to be any more farmland.
No, that's what I'm saying. So you have Midwestern corporate farms. That's it. Go down the turnpike and see the Jane Dell turkey factory. It's like, I don't know, it's like 4 or 5 miles long, and you can't even see how deep it is.
The turkey factory? How have I never noticed the turkey factory?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go down and look. But a lot of things have to change. You need, again, strong leadership. It needs everything from veterinarian services to mechanical changes.
You need fucking Elon's guys from DOGE to change a tire on your tractor now.
I'm telling you, that's the way it is. There's a term for it, and it escapes me. It's the farmers had a suit with John Deere, the right to repair suit or something.
That is so dumb.
Yeah. That's the way it's going.
So instead of controlled obsolescence, it's like you can only get your car serviced here, and you will never have any options because you don't have any computers. That's why there's all these goddamn microchips.
You know what it kind of like feels like to me when they tried to take the Second Amendment away and you can't have guns. Well, you can't take guns. We'll just make the ammunition so expensive. And
yep. Was it the Chris Rock joke?
So it's not even worth having.
You make bullets $9,000 or whatever.
Yeah. You'd have a lot less shootings.
Yeah.
Man.
Think of the industry that could be bring back. Trucking.
It'd be huge.
Mechanics. Could be another it could potentially be another, fracking type industries.
It would make it all cheaper too.
But it'd be bringing it home in an environmentally safe and stable industry.
We put too much faith in the people who are stupid. Yeah. Well, I love you. I think you're one of the good ones. I think you're a great dude. I think you're a smart dude. I think you're super smart dude, actually.
Well, I don't know about that.
Dude, did you ever, One night, Dan, when you're with him and you say something about history and he gives you the exact date,
right,
and year and time that it happened, you're gonna be like, man, this guy is a lockbox of knowledge. You think we're gonna be okay? It's a loaded question for the last question, but
no, I like I said in the past, I think there was a lot more animosity in American history than we give credit to because we're narrow-minded on our decades. I think if we prevailed through all that, we could prevail through this. We're Americans.
I think a lot of people got to remember what that means, though.
Yeah.
My buddy said to me one day, I said, how do you fix it? He goes, everybody needs to rediscover America.
History.
Yeah.
Reagan said it. We don't if we don't teach our history, they're not going to have anything to refer back to.
And apparently Thomas Jefferson was a prick.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson was tough.
Did you have fun? I had fun.
I don't want it.
Okay.
You
thought it was boring because you're giving history lessons, and I'm interested in that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I give a shit what you or
Dan
wet
pants
Melon. Things.
Melon.
I
is
guess
good.
it's your listeners, and if they enjoy the history lessons, which I hope they do, maybe it'll be successful. If not, I guess I just stay up on the mountain.
Are we doing a campfire soon? Are you doing like a
anytime? Hey, you want a fun deal? We'll have Brazilian barbecue.
I would fucking love that.
Yeah, you go into like beef coma.
The meat sweats.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go to that Brazilian place? What's it, Ipanema?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Did she go? Not the same.
It's not the same.
Is that what she says?
It's not the same. She enjoys feeling like she could order what she wants, but it's not the same.
Is she getting better at English?
Oh, hell of a lot better.
Okay, because last time we were talking,
There's nothing
I was Google translating her.
Yeah, there's nothing you can't hide from her now. Before, when I always thought we had a great relationship because she probably couldn't understand half the shit I was saying.
But she just really enjoyed his mixtapes.
Yeah. I did tell her that story. But I'm very proud of her, and she worked very hard. She loves America. And I think that's one thing that's refreshing about her because you don't see that in Americans, to be honest with you.
It's weird. My wife's like that.
Yeah. And that goes to show they've seen stuff that we take for granted. And she's very proud to go through the process. It's longer and more expensive than I thought. And that should be something that the government works towards. But we understand it and we're committed to it.
I'm so happy for you.
Oh, thanks.
So he's like, yo, but Aaron went to Brazil. He's getting married. And I'm like, whoa.
You know how many comments I got from like, that has to be a mail order and stuff like that.
I said to you, are you happy? You said, yeah. I said, then who the fuck am I to judge?
Yeah. I mean, she's beautiful. She's intelligent. It was a culture adjustment for me.
We were down there for like 3 weeks or something, weren't you?
No, 10 days.
It seemed like 3 weeks.
But when she studied in Florida, but we had communications for probably 6 months prior to that. So
I'm just happy you're happy.
Yeah.
And I want to come up and have some Brazilian barbecue.
She loves to have company.
As long as she'd be okay with my wife.
She actually loves your wife. She thought your wife was very interesting when we were up in New York. And I think there might have been that like alien type
camaraderie.
Yeah.
Like, you're not from here either?
Yeah. You're going through what I went through type thing.
Yeah.
And you got to appreciate that. But I'll tell you that the Brazilian population here is huge. I don't know where they hide, but
just like the Congo,
Congo.
The Congolese are here. There's a huge Congolese population here. I'll send you last week's episode with Ushu, man. He was awesome.
Love it.
Oh, he's getting back from the Congo today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's mad about it.
Yeah.
Okay, had a great time. Aaron Sepkowski, you're a good man. Totally hetero. Love you. Is that okay?
Sure. I'm in Scranton.
I'm in that liberal city. I'll take, I guess, homo-y. All right. right, man. Thank you so much for being here. Really loved it.
Thank you for having me. Hope
Dan,
we
you
do
want to say
again.
it?
What a week.